Along with his partner Kanika Agarwal, he established a studio in 2012 in the chosen city of Ahmedabad. Though an unapologetic focus on the design process, Jwalant has led the completion of nearly 70 projects ranging from schools and farmhouses to residential and office interiors, as well as bespoke furniture and art pieces. The studio emphasizes parametric tools and physical modeling as key drivers of design evolution, exploring materials such as metal, wood, bamboo, and paper in innovative and unconventional ways. Gayatri Padmam, Creative Director, Tusker. Gayatri Padmam is the co-founder and creative director of Tusker and the founding principal architect of Anai Design Studio. Tusker was conceived from her personal experiences, which reinforced her belief that furniture should be custom designed and crafted to suit the individual requirements of each client, resulting in a cohesive and well-designed space. As a practitioner, she strives towards sustainable design, keeping in mind the modern context and the global perspectives of her clients. Her core design philosophy is rooted in the belief that design, while being aesthetic, must also be functional and sustainable, achieved through conscious and minimalistic design expressions. Tarun Lala, co-founder, Fansart. Tarun Lala is the co-founder of Fansart and the founder of Levo Labs, combining a strong foundation in engineering with a deep entrepreneurial mindset. He holds a degree in electrical engineering from Northeastern University, Boston, and has pursued entrepreneurship at Stanford University. Under his leadership, Fansart has emerged as a pioneer in India's luxury fan segment, redefining ceiling fans as premium lifestyle products through innovation and design excellence. As a retail footprint of 150 showrooms across India. Priyanka Thakur, founder of House of Berserk. Priyanka Thakur is an assistant professor of architecture and the founder of House of Berserk, a multidisciplinary art and design studio established as a parallel identity to explore experimental narratives and alternative modes of spatial expression. House of Berserk functions as an experimental laboratory that operates at the intersection of architecture, visual arts, and material research. Grounded in an inquiry into the human condition, temporal scale, and spatial perception, HOB continuously evolves, engaging with large-scale murals, sculptures, installations, furniture, and mixed media works, transforming both individual experience and larger urban or architectural contests. Introducing our moderator, Prerak Mahajan, founder, Chair Collective. Prerak Mahajan founded Chair Collective, a direct to consumer luxury furniture startup aimed at simplifying and elevating furniture procurement for interior designers and consumers. A management graduate with over 8 years of experience across both mass and luxury furniture segments, he brings a comprehensive understanding of materials, craftsmanship, and scale of production. Based out of Delhi and widely traveled, Prerak's exposure to diverse cultures shapes Chair Collective's design philosophy. This perspective allows the brand to work with a rich spectrum of materials and scales. The panel discussion, the global Indian effect.
So essentially we're planning to make this a little peppy, so we would like you guys to be involved as well, all of you. So we're talking about the global Indian effect today, which is basically small objects creating bigger impacts, bigger ripples. So we often talk about shaping cities architecturally, but before cities become buildings and before buildings become objects, chairs, fans, lighting, installations, these everyday things quietly enter our lives before skylines do. So the global Indian effect explores how intentional design decisions and products can ripple outwards, shaping cultures, behaviors, identities, and how India is perceived globally. So today's conversation is about these smaller revolutions that we keep doing on a day-to-day basis. So let's start. So segment 1 is on the edge, when objects refuse, and as architects and designers, we refuse to stay ordinary. So Tarun, this question is for you. They say fans were one of the most ignored objects in a room. And you only notice a fan when they stop working, right? So what do you think? When did you first think that why should a fan become a sculpture? How can it be an art piece?
Is that the end of the question?
Yeah, that is.
I think this was back in 2011 when we saw like really nice fans in San Diego and California. Then we came back and looked for it and we couldn't find any. And it was just a question that India is such a pankha country. But then we noticed that neither were designers adding any fans to their renders, or when they were photographing their projects, they were photoshopping the fans out of them. And so clearly they were just, very unattractive, pure appliance, but they were appliances that you were using for so many hours in a day, like your mattress or any of those very, very high utility objects. And we live in a subtropical climate that then we noticed all the other products were being evolved from a design point of view, from a functionality point of view. So why were the fans not being? So we started looking for them for our own home in Bangalore. And when we couldn't find any, we tried to put two and two together. And so that was the idea of putting fans as a utility object, as an appliance, together with art to see, can we bring together a nice portfolio of designs for luxury homes to start with, and then go from there. So that was back in 2011.
And no doubt about it, I think you guys have created an impact in the fan industry. I mean, I now designers do look at fans as something of, high value in their houses. So the next question is for Jwalant. So Jwalant, you guys deal with movement and transition, right? Do you think do Indian consumers really read these stories, or are designers progressive? Are they still buying static forms or safe and static forms?
If you would have asked me this question about 10 years back, the story was different. Now, I think they have started to understand, or more than understand, started to see the way, let's say, fluid forms are to be seen. Earlier, if you would show a fluid form, or if you propose it, or if you see it, like there was no differentiation between a fluidity done by, let's say, Zaha, or done by us, or done by someone else. A fluid was a fluid, because we haven't, as a society, developed enough aesthetical appraisal for a different kind of or a form, or a different kind of an identity. Now, people have seen that a lot more. The world is a lot more flatter now than it was 10 years back. So I think there is an acceptance of that. The understanding is not still as one would want it to be, but there is a lot of acceptance of that, and the designers themselves are starting to explore their narrative and go beyond their comfort zone of just using something which they're used to. So I feel that, and I can say that because we are selling more than we were selling before, and there are things which we had designed long time back but are selling now. So you can understand that it's not that something new which we have brought is being sold, or it's been appreciated, but it's something that people have started to understand and started to appropriate, let's say, design, because it's not only the client, it's the architects or the interior designers who are appropriating our work into their spaces. So the way they are doing it shows that there is a slow acceptance of what an alternative way of looking at objects is.
I have a follow-up question on that, which is off script entirely. So do you think this transition has happened after COVID, or has it been like there before? I mean, from what we have seen as manufacturers in furniture, we've seen that people are experimenting more than ever now.
I think COVID did help in terms of the industry at large, so that helped all of us. But I think it was a gradual transition. It's also when some people start to use it, there is a lot more of understanding, because as a personally, as a product designer, let's say, if I don't look at myself as an architect, we are designing an object which is for a space, but we are not showing them how it is being used in 10 different ways. We are generally looking at it as an object. We are photographing it most of the time as an individual object, not necessarily showing every time how it will enhance the space. So when it starts to be used, and then once it's out in public, let's say in terms of Instagrams or in terms of magazines or posts and things like that, people start to understand even more how something like this could go with a lot more conventional pieces of furniture.
Thank you so much. And since you brought Instagram app, so my next question is for Priyanka. Priyanka, do you think we are experimenting because we're curious, or designs are looking Instagrammable? That's the reason we're designing more for cameras rather than for homes or for daily movements. What do you think?
Why I design is, I think I'm audible.
Pick up the mic, Priyanka.
So why I design is because I have a soul, which I haven't sold yet. But we definitely upscaled because everyone wants pretty things. Everyone wants things, because someone else has it, or it just looks pretty, but works for us. But we still try and do justice because, and how is through giving them narrative-oriented work. So despite you've come to us with no brief, or we just want pretty things, or we just want colorful things, or we want something that is very similar to what somebody else has, we still try and give them something which would last them for about a decade till they alter as people. And if somebody's coming to us giving us Pinterest images that we want something like this, then we tell them that go to someone who will we'll connect you to someone who would. So yeah, I mean, cannot elaborate more on this.
That's us then.
Yeah.
They come to us then. So Gayatri, you have also been an architect, you've been a manufacturer, and you're manufacturing furniture. So when you push unconventional materials, right? So reality does hit back. There are factory issues, there are costs involved, there are timeline issues. At what point do, as manufacturers, we start censoring design as ambition? I mean, where do we create that differential line between ambition and design?
So I think this conversation only comes, if you are isolated in design. You're not sitting and designing out of a room, isolated from the craft itself, right? Design has to be a dialogue between the craft and the craftsperson. So, we are merely the mediators between the two. If we do this in isolation, 100% there is going to be pushback, there are going to be challenges with materials. But if we really fall back on people who understand materials, then that issue can really be, sorted very easily, because, it is going to be a constant back and forth. And that way there is no, it's like, the question of architects always fighting with structural engineers. There's that back and forth, right? Like we create something which has no pillars, nothing, no support, and then the structural engineer will put 15 beams and send it back, which is the reality. So there's a dialogue that has to come, right? So it's a similar kind of a situation where there has to be a very clear dialogue between the designer and the craftsperson, and no one the better than the other.
Thank you. So next I have is an open-ended question. I mean, the audience is welcome to help us in this. So if an experimental product fails commercially, but again, it is somehow sparking conversations, it makes you think differently, is that a failure, or is that a success wearing a different name? What do you guys think? Anyone?
You want to take that? You have an answer.
I don't. I mean, I feel like that question can be done for products, projects, movies, music, anything, right? Without the timing, it's so difficult for it. You have movies that have commercially failed and then been appreciated later. So I think the timing of the audience is necessary. Commercial part is unfortunately important because the adoption of it, the willingness of somebody to pay for it is necessary for anything to be economically viable. If you don't reach economies of scale, you're not going to be able to give it to a certain market. In maybe a custom job where you're doing it something very, very unique towards one person, for us also, I can create a canvas out of a fan, but we get artists to paint on the blades, and that is unique to them. But if the fan is not going to give you utility out of it, then that custom job which is unique for you, and if the willingness to pay is not going to be there, then it's not. So the timing of it matters. It could be appreciated much later, where it could be reintroduced later. So it's subjective whether you just, in a binary fashion, call it a success or failure.
So it is safe to say that it depends on, India is a huge market and you never know that what clicks where, right?
Absolutely.
I would like to add a little bit to that by saying that when you are talking about a specific product, it could be anything. The scalability of it, I understand that it matters. But right now, the audiences are also shifting to a sort of reception which we've never seen before. And if you can't sell that out of the box, I don't know where that box is, but out of the box idea, which people at the moment don't have acumen for, call it art and sell it. Make it luxurious, make it one-off, and either put it at India Art Fair, and voila.
Yeah.
So collectible. I think we're shifting a lot more to collectible, that each product doesn't need to be made, 1,000 pieces don't need to be made of it. Even a few, 1 of 5, 2 of 5, I think people are desiring that more. At the same time, of course, product being functional as well as it having the scalable intent always, for the market.
I'll just add that because we are talking about if the product is success or not. I think even if a product can inspire, let's say, we are not talking about the financial part of it, but even if it can inspire 10 more people to look at it and do something around it, and even if it never really takes off, even after 100 years, it's absolutely successful, because there have been so many architects in the past when this utopian idea was very, very, up and coming in 50s and 60s, let's say the archigrams, and none of their cities were buildable, but there were these utopian ideas of how the cities would be, how the urbanscape could be. There were walking cities, and there were crazy things, and they inspired so many architects like, let's say, Richard Rogers and people like those who have really changed the landscape of architecture. So I think in design, the success of a design should not be compared to the commercial aspect of it or any of it. I think the success of a design could be purely if that person has been able to push that boundary sometimes just for himself. I think that also could be immense success.
Absolutely. And I think one of the examples that come to mind as soon as you say that was the Eiffel Tower, right? Like according to history, when it was first built, people didn't really like it so much. Now it's a wonder. So irrespective of the commercial angle of it. And I think the good part about today's date is that between Instagram and how hyper-connected the world is, people are not afraid to share their work. They want to build that cloud. They want to inspire others. People are not, scared to be inspired or let their work be an inspiration for someone else. Downstairs, you see folks who are into furniture create a little competition for other people who are manufacturing, younger folks who are coming up with designs. The good part of 2026 is they're not, or our recent years is they're not looking at them as competition, but they're looking at people who they can collaborate with. And so that's the interesting part about it.
That's the best part about our industry today. Like, we are evolving as collaborators rather than competitors. So I think that's what interior industry is now becoming, architecture and interior industry.
And it's not binary either, right? So people are accepting, and like you said, it needs to be 5 pieces that 5 people may have adopted, but 5,000 people may have appreciated, and then you move on to the next piece that has been inspired from this.
Right, so next we go to the craft paradox, which is basically building heritage and comparing it with the cost that comes along with heritage today. So India as a country is GI tagged, right? We have geographies that inspire our products. There's a lot of indication on geographies, but the relevance is quite poor in everyday life. Like, let's say a lot of craft is unusable in everyday things that we do. So do product designers, be it furniture designers or object designers, truly understand these crafts, or are they just treating this as surface decoration? So what do you guys think?
Okay. So, the main reason why GI tagging came up to be is because a lot of the crafts were dying. A lot of the craftspeople were feeling underappreciated, and they didn't want their own families to continue in the path. So, India as a country has such a rich tradition of crafts across, from south to north. There are so many craft clusters. So the general, erosion of the skill is why people have become a little more involved in this. Now, many a times the question that arises is about culturally appropriating this. Like the minute a designer steps into, working with a craft cluster, there's always a question of, are we appropriating? Are we trying to take away their ownership? Are we trying to, dictate craft in a way that is different from how they, really look at it? But I also feel like craft, in order to be relevant, also needs to evolve, and that's where sometimes a new perspective from a designer or a patron can really help with that. And genuinely, the last few years has seen an amazing boom in understanding and acceptance of where we are as a country, with respect to craft. Everybody's been a lot more aware, and we all have now realized that, whether it's Europe or the Western countries, they all come to India, take our craft, rebrand it, and represent it and sell it to us, right? So I think there's a very, very clear awareness now about that.
So we do end up using this as nostalgia somewhere, right? Do you think that this is all a part of nostalgia, and if we're trying to bring all those previous things that have happened back to the...
So nostalgia is a very strong tool, and especially, so I'm just going to speak about myself. I was born in Kerala. I was brought up in Mumbai, and I'm practicing in Bangalore. So a lot of us have similar backgrounds where there's a sense of displacement, right? Like you really are wondering, where do you belong? Where are you coming from? And that's where a tool like nostalgia can really be hard hitting, because we're all kind of scrambling to find where we belong. So I think that's why nostalgia really works, as
I think
a tool.
maybe that is why people want homes or spaces around which they can relate to, and they go back to heritage today. So we often say that it is crafted in collaboration with artisans. It's handcrafted. So is this authorship genuinely shared, or are the designers today extracting cultural value while keeping the creative control in hand? What do you guys think?
It is both. The designers are surely keeping a lot of creative control when it comes to craft, because as craft, if you take any craft, it has evolved over centuries, but it has evolved very, very slowly. It has evolved, and because it has evolved very slowly, it is very rooted. Now today, as a designer, everybody wants, or most of us, I would not put everyone down in that, but most of us wants to stand out, because unless you stand out, you will not be noticed. So because you want to stand out, you want to change that mode of the craft very, very quickly, and to do that very quickly, you as a designer consider that this is a creative freedom you are taking with the craft, and craft is kind of, in a way, a supporting element. Now, a craft could be just a superficial thing, as you earlier mentioned, or it could be a slightly more deeply rooted in terms of the way the material is behaving, the way the joineries are, depending on what craft you take, or if it's a surface treatment, the paints and the pigments and all of those things. So there are designers who are slightly more deeply rooted as craft and then following that same pattern, but still trying to push it. So something which could have taken, let's say, a couple of decades to evolve, we are trying to evolve it faster within, let's say, 6 months' time, because every year there are exhibitions, and every year you want to bring out something new to be shown. And that is where we are pushing the craft in a manner which is becoming a lot more relevant. The second thing what craft is doing is it is making us relevant, because whatever we see in the world, everybody is seeing the same thing. You are seeing the same thing, I am seeing the same thing, someone in Australia is seeing the same thing, someone in the Americas are seeing the same things, because so our experiences now are becoming very, very flat. Our influences are becoming very, very flat. So what makes us relevant is the moment we start to, let's say, inherit back what we have as a country, it separates us out within that same knowledge system, that what else can we add to our piece which makes us slightly different than what someone would build, because the machines are the same. We are all importing the same machines from, let's say, someone from China is selling everywhere, machines in Germany, they are selling all over the world. So what's different with us? So rather than us really thinking that we are saving the craft, I think a lot of times they save us and make us, let's say, the Indian design community.
Oh, that's really well said.
Just adding a little bit to that, it's also that I agree to what you're saying, but it's a very, very symbiotic relationship, because that craft would have no longer existed had a designer not stepped in to contemporize it. Because something as simple as pottery wouldn't have made sense to a Gen Z or a millennial had it been not translated into something that resonates with them. So it's also how the designers are interpreting and reinventing that craft, pushing the boundaries for it to also live longer. Also, where I'm failing to understand is, just because the designers have stepped in, something that I've grown up with, now I am selling my kidneys to afford it, also doesn't make any sense. So that balance also needs to be brought in the coming years as to how to make it viable for the craftsperson, for the designer, and for the normal common man to consume, because this is not only a Milan thing. This is also for the market from where it is coming out. Today you are ready to buy a kolhapuri that it is absolutely absurd. It is. So we also need to appreciate what's coming from us. We also need to price it the way that we can afford it, and also find the balance as to how a designer and that craftsperson can coexist and grow and have the longevity.
That's why it's so important to bring it back in a way where the supply demand exists, so that people who work with their hands don't always think that, oh, my kids need to go to school so that they don't need to do what I did, whether it's silver in Udaipur and that's a dying art, or wherever it is, right? We get a lot of our things hand done for some of the tripod fans.
Glass etching, wooden work, all of that.
Yeah, so there we see the weaving of the fan parts, right? Are after a certain supply, we don't know where to go because there's not enough people to do it, and so that supply demand may be the issue where the economics come, right? But which is where you said that if there's enough of a market, the important part what you said is if the new generation is going to resonate with it, adopt it in a way, find it cool in their own new way where we can bring it back, so that balance can work itself out to make it more affordable to sort of do it.
I also want to touch upon something Jwalan said, which is every year there are exhibitions where we have to put out things, and the requirement to keep innovating. In this race, I'm also afraid that, what we've set out to revive, we may just abandon it midway and move on to the next thing. Like, for instance, Rattan is on pepper fry. Are we just going to stop using it now? Because if it's reached pepper fry, it's died, as far as designers are concerned, right? That's where it goes to die. So, but at the same time, we've made a whole deal about giving the weavers a second chance. So we need to make sure that the materials don't just die and the craft doesn't die. And if we have to reinvent it for the next show, we should still, have some kind of earnesty to those clusters as well.
No pepper fry was harmed in this panel discussion. Please.
I work in the craft sector in the UK. So what I see in the India craft sector and the UK craft sector is UK craft sector people are designer makers. One person has education and makes it. Where here we are designers and we are makers, so there's not an election here. So the designers are not passing on that education to the makers so that they don't develop. And that's why
they work so that their children don't work, because they don't find that motivation and enthusiasm. I think if there's a transparency and a mentoring program for the makers by the scientists, then it becomes easier, and then nobody will fight for that which of course.
I would like to, no, sir, I would like to add to that is because we claim as Indians that we are not competitive. We are fucking competitive, and we are too many. We are so many that this is bound to happen. So my other problem in teaching you something which is innate to me is that you tomorrow will become me. I don't want that kind of fucking competition. I'm just saying this is how.
Make a living in a small village in Gujarat will never be you.
No, I'm just saying that this is how the designers are thinking. I would want 100 of me so that that burden from me is gone. But I'm just saying that generally this is what I've understood, or the conversations that we have with fellow designers, is that the kind of everyone wants to be one off. And so that passing of the knowledge, the ego is so big, but we are getting there. We are getting there. But I completely agree to the process that you've just mentioned. It's just that because of us being too many, there is a slight gap in us becoming the tutors and mentors, and not just the holding of intellect and information and skill with us.
We talked about the creative control. Designers always have the creative control, and designers should have the creative control because they've seen the world, they've been educated. They are selling to the people in the universe they are living in. Absolutely. The people who make it in the small villages, they will never see that. Yeah. So they don't understand what colors to use, what technique. For them, it's a skill, it's not a product design. Yeah. So I think mentioning what I meant was you could actually train them to design as per your aesthetic appeal for them to understand. So next time, they are creating something for you. But again, I understand that here, somebody else might come and copy that and do that. So, yeah.
How long are you in India? How long are you in India for?
I was born here.
We are keeping you. We need a lot.
We should get another chair here. Yeah, come on.
So, which is what that may be the solution. What you recommended for not making their skill set obsolete, because if they are designing, all of a sudden they may see more of that economic value as well. If they find that their skill is undervalued and they're getting underpaid while the rest of the world is growing, and which is why they don't want to pass it on to the next generation. According to me, it's a math problem.
But I already did that project at London School of Economics and Middlesex University. I traveled to Jaffna, I traveled to Kashmir, where the women were actually trained. So I trained them how to just mix colors. It was just as basic as that, how 3 colors, they've never touched in their life.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think that's easy. Not giving them design skills, but giving them those basic skills where they understand, and the middle people cannot take it on.
They upskill them.
Yes.
They upskill them, and it gets rid of the traders, at least in the middle. Yeah.
So according to you, should it be industry responsibility or should the government organizations step in for the upskilling of the entire?
I think they should be funding well. There should be definitely funding available to the governments, to the private sectors, and things like that.
Could we have a mic there, please?
Mike.
We have a lot of mass, and there the products that we find, especially when we talk about craft, it is always been culturally associated, evolved in that manner from a lot of rituals which is also been associated. Right now, after a lot of education and some of different perspective is been added, right, that is adding value to those crafts. But there are masses who are sticking to those rituals. So we, as a designer, first need to understand why the parameters of design that we are talking to them, are they understanding in a manner, right? So that's a big question when it comes to masses. A product design.
See, but I also feel like, when we are designing for masses, we also have to understand that they come with a certain set of aspirations, right? Like for instance, if I suggest that, we do a rammed earth wall for a common man, they'd be like, no, I've lived all my life in that. I want a travertine marble home, right? Like for them, that is upgradation. So that's where, designing for masses can get a little tricky. Right? And, trying to sell the same set of craft to them may not really work.
So it's craft versus scale in that sense then.
In a sense, yes, and it's not always true that a business needs to be scalable to be successful. Sometimes a business may decide to tackle a specific problem, a specific question, and which is fine, because like Priyanka said, there are dime a dozen of us. There are so many people who can solve so many different questions, and that's fine, and that's the exciting part, right? And I think that's exactly what's happening in India now, which is why there are so many design shows and we are all super excited all the time.
So I just have a question.
Could you just give a mic, please? This the craftsmanship and everything that we are talking about. Do you think it's the trend that is going on right now, or because trends are something everyone follows, and then slowly the whole industry starts talking about it in a very spiritual manner, or with stories. I don't know, I may be wrong, but I just want to put this in front of you.
Okay, I'll give a simple example. We have been wanting to, as she rightly said, that we want to cater to this problem. And again, for me, solving how to equip the artisans, if I am ever going to work with artisans, how to create that economy I've still not reached to the solution, so I'm still not working with craftspeople. But despite not working with the craftspeople and still not being in trend and in vogue, which you are rightfully questioning, I'm still sitting here on this side of the table. So it is a trend, it is a fad, but it is also an eventuality. That's how people's memory also works. Bell bottoms was out of fashion for a very long period of time, and now they're back. It's just going to constantly churn, because irrespective of the number of designers that we have, we are all limited. How much new are you going to create? It's all begged, borrowed, or stolen. So at the end of the day, you are eventually going to go to your roots and because we're all nomads at the end of the day. No, this will never go away. Sorry, yeah, you are very excited. I will.
I don't think it's a trend.
Yeah.
I think it's awareness.
It's awareness.
People are more aware now. And why are they aware? Because of the social media. Because designers like us are doing those kind of things. And it's like, because it always existed. Craftsmanship has existed for 5,000 years. But people were not aware. Now we are putting it right in their faces that this is what it is. And it's like that.
I think there is one more thing why this conversation of craft has come back so much in this a popular conversation is because for a long time we were ruled, and what was Indian in a way got lost in a large period. Now we are again progressive. We are starting to feel powerful as India, and now we want to have a conversation. Now, if you want to have a conversation without our baggage of colonialism, what conversation starter will you have? So then you go back, that what were we? And that's how again the conversation as craft come in, because the moment people think of craft, my work doesn't look like one. Her work doesn't look like one, but we are still using it in some form. We are still benefiting out of it. But the conversation starters become craft, because otherwise, if you go back 100 years, we have nothing to talk about. So that's why I think all of this kind of comes in, because we want to feel independent again. We want to feel powerful again. We want to feel that, okay, we are different from the West in a manner, or whatever you call it.
So just to add, echo, summarize, whatever it is, it's just like one of those, I think craft never went anywhere. Everything is sort of following a sine wave, right? It comes up, it goes down, it comes up. Craft never went. The conversation and, like Sir said, the awareness comes in. You look at toys from Chanpatna, saris that are handmade, all kinds of stuff always existed, whether it was under the British, after the British, now. Somewhere somebody would have pointed out that this is happening, this is becoming scarce, this is becoming inadequate, this is happening, the economics are not, whatever it is. Now, because there is more awareness and somebody's decided to shed light on it, we bucket it as the global Indian effect. Tomorrow, India is also 40 countries put into one in terms of habits and languages and crafts and other things. where there's a problem, they'll need a solution. So tomorrow, to make sure something doesn't die, if there's still relevance, it has to be spoken about. We may not be hitting the right strings today, but because of this conversation, there'll be another conversation tomorrow and a third conversation. Somewhere or the other, a problem statement will have to be identified with the right solution, like we spoke about upskilling. So I think it's all about identifying, being aware, acknowledging, finding the right solution. So according to me, it didn't go anywhere. We're just acknowledging and trying to have a healthy discussion around it so that we can hopefully do something about it.
So we would have another mic there, please.
So West is always known for using the IP rights and taking what others had. So we discussed about the shoes, the Prada take. So I have seen Japan had worked hand in hand in that way in preserving their craft. So West now has adapted Japanese craft, and we know it as Japanese craft, the methods and everything. But I still see India and China and other Indian Eastern nations lagging behind and not representing themselves in that manner, in that scale. So you all being the flag bearer of this industry, what do you think would be the right steps for doing so?
The mayor of New York City is a bloody Indian. What are you talking about? We are getting there.
Yeah.
Just because we haven't doesn't mean we are not on the right path. We are slow, but we are phenomenally pacing up. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Also, I think we have so much in India, so many people to buy our stuff that we don't have to look that only export is the way. Japan is a very small country. How much will they sell? So if I want to sell, I don't need to look outside. We might explore a bit here and there, but there is enough in India as a market to sell. So you will not see that many Indian car companies trying to be in the West, because there is enough. We can't produce as much as we can sell. So it is not that we have to keep trying to sell outside. People who want us take Indian stuff, but we have enough in terms of the market to not worry about us being there or not there.
And also something as simple as we ourselves weren't yoga practitioners or Ayurveda practitioners till the West accepted us and then brought it back to us. So it's an Indian problem. It is the people who are sitting in this room, living and breathing creatures, it's our problem. It's not anybody else's problem that we are late. We just want them to validate us first, and then we're like, oh, we are there. That needs to change. Only then will we, I completely agree and understand, but this generation that's sitting here right now in this room, absolutely no bloody trauma. Okay, you are born with a single silver spoon. This needs to change from them. I understand. Our generation, I understand, but they have no bloody baggage. There was a young chap who asked this, so I'm just saying that change. You change and make the rest of them walk your path.
So Japan is all about precision things because people are doing selected things at the selected market. In India, we tend to do everything and for everybody. You want to sell it to everybody. You should focus on your strengths, not on weaknesses, and then focus on the market you want to work with. So I think that precision has to be there.
If you compare the countries of the US where you're expected to speak one language, Japan where everybody speaks one language, India and China where you have multiple diverse markets within the same country. If you're a man and a woman of a public office, you've got different problems on your head to solve. You've got two really, really crowded and diverse countries. One for those countries like Japan, where they want to create a market outside of Japan to be able to sell to a larger market. We have a massive market within the country. So if you're comparing countries, it's very difficult to do a binary comparison. There's a lot of variables that you need to put together. So if you're offering something, you'll have to see whether you want to do it within India, outside of India, whether you're asking if we are representing ourselves right in front of other countries. There are 100 different things we need to represent. I think we're representing adequately in maybe a certain percentage, we're doing inadequately in a certain percentage. It's always going to be a work in progress. Certain things we're doing right because of the government doing it right, certain things we're doing right despite the government. So man, it's your question came out as a binary question, but it's not even a 5-mark answer, it's a 10-mark answer for something like this.
And I think one more quick thing about that, right? The reason why Slumdog Millionaire did so well globally is because there's a perception of India the world wants to hold on to. There's a perception, like recently I was at Kochi Binale and a friend runs a shop there. So there's somebody who's been coming for the past 10 years from France to India, and they are angry that the costs have been rising. So they want everything to stay the same. And that could probably be because, according to them, the citizens of France, they're becoming poorer and poorer. This is their perception of themselves. And they're getting really upset when they come to India and see that all of us are global citizens. We have everything and we're happy and we're not like really the slumdog millionaires. So it's also the perception that Westerners or maybe very certain countries have about us, and it disappoints them and they feel like they need to save us. But we don't need the saving, right?
I think we should have another topic or another chat on craft entirely. It's so fun, right? So moving on from craft, I think let's talk about the functions of things we do on a day-to-day basis. So Tarun, you're making fans. The best fans in the country at the moment. So multifunctional fans are a thing that sound futuristic, but are they actually responding to real homes today? And do you think the designers projecting lifestyle that users haven't demanded and we are just selling it for the sake of selling it?
I think it's a mix, right? Forgive me, I'll use a very specific example, but when we're looking at fans, and I know we sell only to premium because that's the economy right now, we look at dining tables, we look at walk-in closets, we look at vanity sections because that's what people are building in their homes now. When we look at a dining table as an example, people were like, do I put a chandelier or a fan? So we came up with a fandelier, right? When we said, okay, people don't want the food to get cold, or somebody said, I don't want the hair to fly. And now people are putting candles underneath. So then we said, okay, can we give it an electromagnetic motor where the fan can go anti-clockwise also and clockwise also, where the candle will also not extinguish, the food will also not get cold. You can put a dimmer in the light also because there's only a single electrical point and you need illumination and breeze from both. We saw the same thing in the kitchen where there's a stove and you don't want the stove being extinguished, so there's a clockwise direction over there. We saw people use the same thing in the living room. It gets hot in Ahmedabad, Bombay, Delhi. So can we use the fan and the AC together where the clockwise direction will vacuum the cool air up and circulate it? You can turn off the AC after 30 minutes and make it more sustainable. We did a little study where it turns out 8 out of 10 couples tend to disagree on how to cool the room. So we turned around and told them there's clockwise direction there. So a lot of these problem statements on, there's one fan we took saying that, okay, it's only going to drop 7 inches because in the walk-in closet, you have a storage cabinet that opens and it should not hit the fan. So it spans only 15 inches like this, 7 inches. Each one of these problem statements, whether it's a kitchen, dining table, vanity, walk-in closet, any of these, we had to study on saying how many people take hot water showers even in hot cities and they come out in their small little walk-in closet sweating after that. So these are actual functional use cases that we have to take into consideration beyond the aesthetic part of it. Radio frequency remote so that person doesn't have to come out and point the thing. So these are actually very real functional elements that we have to take into consideration. So to your question.
Now I wish I went to Stanford too, sir. now Stanford makes sense.
Sorry, it didn't make sense before this question. I clearly misrepresent myself.
But Priyanka, what do you think as a responsibility of designer should be to educate, should we be educating the functionality to the clients? How should it, flow?
I'm sorry for being a little brutal right now, but मेरे को तुम्हारी माँ नहीं बनना है, ठीक है? You got to come with a certain sense of understanding of how to live. Okay, I can provide you something better for sure. That's why you're hiring me. Okay, but I am not going to educate you as to how to live. I will teach you as to how to live well. If that is the gap, that is the gap that I am ready to bridge. So of course there is a certain sense of responsibility that a designer has, but I also feel that design is, see, there is a difference between architecture, art, products, etc., etc. We've tried to, through being pseudo-intellectuals, we've tried to bridge this gap way too much. But art needs to be selfish, product needs to be functional, and architecture needs to be an autonomous sculpture in its own kind. So it needs to be both. This is a given. I'm not going to sit here and teach you that. तुम्हें पता है तो आओ, नहीं पता है तो किसी और के पास जाओ. But so, you know.
But it's become a creator economy, right? I mean, people are eventually have started promoting their products, and they've started educating. There are podcasts now, so people are trying to give out best possible information to the end user to make the products more intuitive, functional. I mean, making sure that every product part is being used. Like when we download an Apple iOS, so they take you through a preview, right? So how do, as designers, do that better for the clients?
I'm not going to dump myself down as a designer because you don't have the acumen for it. ठीक है? I understand that we need to, सब furniture IKEA furniture नहीं होता. ठीक है? So there also has to be a certain understanding of, see, again, it is very paradoxical that way. But if I'm making something, I definitely I'm comfortable explaining to you as to what I have made. I'm not going to sit here and continuously keep explaining to you why I have made it or what is it going to do to you in your life. Okay, it is an influencer culture which has made designers sit on tabletops and touch them and say that this is Tarantino and this is... it is dumbing yourself down for the consumer, which I do not appreciate, understand, or endorse. If it's your product, you have made it, you have all the right to explain it in n number of ways to the person who doesn't understand it. But not as designers sitting on...
You know, was it Henry Ford that said if I had asked people, they would have said they would want faster horses? And then there was Arjun sitting here yesterday who said a lot of their clients don't have the spatial cognizance. So, like, I mean, I've been exposed to designers only through the business. One of the things I really, really respect you guys for is that despite all the moving parts you have to put together, you have to deal with the client who doesn't have a lot of that. For us, we tell them, you know, we can do all these things, and they say, oh, aisa bhi hota hai. You guys still will have to do it at some point or the other, because people will not, like, there is an element of education that is inevitable, and whether you like it or not, you may have to tactfully do that as well.
Which is why I said art, product, architecture. Pick your battle.
I think more than education, it's brainwashing. You have to just brainwash them enough to agree to you, because finally, however you want to educate them, she will say something else, and I will say something else, and you will say something else. So I think it's more, you have become more like a manipulator here.
I was about to say manipulation is the word.
Yeah. So we have become like a manipulator to make sure that what I'm thinking now, I agree, because I might not agree to myself a year later. So what I'm thinking now, I just have to make them somehow within that, because whatever you show them, it's very difficult for someone who is building a house once or twice in a lifetime to really visualize that. How many renders you show them after they go into the space, they still can't figure out it was the same render. Yeah. Let's say, even if it's exactly the same. So it's more about just making them believe that the few crores they are spending not on us, on themselves, but the few crore they are spending, whatever we say, they will spend it correctly.
Yeah, and sometimes the clients turn to us as architects, where I have to do Tarun's job also. So I have to sell his fan to the client, which honestly, if you like the fan, pick it. Like, you don't need my validation. So there are certain objects that come into. You ask me, does the fan look good? Does it go aesthetically well? I will give you my pitch on that. But to ask me whether how his fan works, that's where I really fail to give an answer, because that's not my area of expertise. And sometimes that responsibility falls so wholly and in such a cumbersome way on architects that's what you're talking about, which really drains us out. Like, my very first client wanted me to accompany him to buy a bucket for his bathroom. So where do you draw the line? right? So he wanted a copper bucket. So in his thing, he was like, I don't know where to get a copper bucket. It's all plastic buckets. I was like, neither do I. But that's the responsibility that falls on a designer. And if they've hired you, either they listen to you like to the T, where they're like always looking back at you, or they'll hire you and tell you exactly what to do. So neither are a good place to be in.
I think it's also related to psychology. The Indian market is not evolved yet, that we're buying for ourselves. We want to buy for others, because the person asks you, because if it looks good to you, it will look good for their friends.
See, that's about the looking good part.
That is the issue.
Actually, what you said was right on the money, right? For any Indian, irrespective of which part of the pyramid, making a home is a big deal. It has been over decades. So all of a sudden, and it's unfortunate part of a service business, where when they pay you money, the attitude sucks that, oh, I paid you money, now
You are my slave.
You have to mother me, like you said, unfortunately, for everything. So do I buy this fork, or do I buy this red color, like matte, or whatever it is, right? They will come to you for everything. And the fact that you have to put all these pieces together for them, at some point, they are not going to understand the head and tail of it, which is unfortunately true, that people just don't necessarily have that. So like Chalan said, no, you like it.
But when it comes to making in India, right, we are bound by the realities of the market. There are limitations to what we can do. Although we are trying to evolve, we are trying to grow, we are trying to adopt Western cultures. Indian cultures are growing, all of that. But although it does sound bold, but factories, vendors, and tolerances kind of shape the outcomes very early. So what do you guys think? I mean, what can we do better about going out and about for this?
I think, see, the moment we start to talk about what is possible in India is because we are comparing ourselves to let's say in Italy or or a Scandinavian countries or whatever. A lot of them, when I say them, let's say the Western countries, when they see our work, they are amazed how we are building it. So we are actually not anyways backwards in producing a certain thing. It's only a perspective of what we are looking at and then saying that we are behind. So I think and it's very specific to machine produced objects. So if you don't look at machine produced objects, we are doing far better than anyone else. Or let's say if you go to Bali, they are not cribbing like we are. Why are they not cribbing like we are? Because they are happy with what they are doing. They are continuing with what they are doing. We are the one who are constantly comparing ourselves, again because of the background we have or the traumas we have. We are constantly comparing ourselves. We go to Milan and we say, "Yeah, this table so sleek," but we can do certain other things which they cannot. And that's the response we have got in the past for our furniture and for the things others have done. So I think this is more psychological and mental than I feel as a reality.
So there's another trending. Sorry, you were saying something.
But technically answering that also is that the entire country is so diverse. It also depends on where you're working in terms of logistics. So for someone who comes from Gujarat and wants to set up a workshop in Bangalore, where you are nowhere remotely related to anything down south other than two piercings, it becomes extremely difficult to have a workshop. They work very differently. So if I have to deliver a piece in, say, another 15 days, I would still give it to a person in Gujarat, because Gujarat, Maharashtra, MP, Delhi still works at a certain pace in producing and manufacturing, and the turnaround time is very different. You go down south and हमारा तो हर दूसरे दिन long weekend है. अरे सर खाना कैसे खाते हैं आप? Who puts food on your table? I am. Please work. But that doesn't happen. So logistically, production of things in this country will vary every 1,000 or 2,000 or 1,800 or 800 kilometers. So yeah.
But we do end up importing a lot of components or hardwares or parts from other parts of the world, and then we use a tag called "Make in India," right? So would that be an ethical practice to do, because it's essentially not entirely made in India, right? So is it ethical according to you guys?
I mean, are you talking about hinges? Are you talking about...
Yes.
So why these rules, right? Like, if something works better, what is the problem in actually reaching out to a place where it works better and buying from there just so that your product is, functional? Having said this, like if you're making a chair, it is probably something that's completely made in India. But if you're making a wardrobe, there are probably pieces that you have to export from outside, and which is fine. Like, why have these rules and then make it difficult for us? We don't need to have a Make in India tag on everything that we do. And at the end of the day, like I said, we are all well-traveled global citizens. If we know that we get something better somewhere else, there's no harm in that. Like, I feel like we don't need to box ourselves into this, just to make a narrative work.
Very brilliantly said, made a narrative work, because if you put the hashtag of Made in India and sustainable on anything, I will, if my market value is something, I'm just going to go exorbitantly high the minute I put Make in India and sustainable to that. So yeah.
Also, I think we are talking a lot about just importing. We are exporting a lot. This entire market of furniture in Jodhpur, you try and buy it from them, they will say no. They are only exporting. Now sitting here, we can discuss about the designs or the copies or what they're doing, but they are exporting all over the world. We are exporting so many different things to the world. There are components which we make, there are materials which we make in India, which go into other companies and other products there, which we are not aware of. So I think it is a global market, and yes, we have to accept that in certain industries we are not as good. We have not developed as much as other countries are, and we are ready to use the best in the world, and we should just accept that and move on.
Fair enough. But if this is a very controversial topic, so I'll still bring this up. Why do you think, or where do you think Indian product designs fail or lose globally? Be it materials, be it finishing, consistency, or just storytelling? What do you think is our...
I honestly don't think Indian design fails globally. In fact, what we really were talking about, how the Westerners are coming to India, taking our designs and taking it back to them, right? So if we were failing, that really wouldn't happen. There is a studio in Bangalore, Tarangini. They make absolutely wonderful hand block printed fabric. Most of it is exported, and most of it, people are ready to pay in lakhs to buy from maybe a brand in London. So there are certain appropriations that happen. So I really don't think that India is failing at all. India is there, at least in the design world. It's there on everybody's mind, and people know by now. It's probably us, like we were talking about, our past trauma, which is making us feel like we are failing and we're not good enough. But No.
So there is now House of Santal, which a friend of mine started. It's a 10,000 square feet retail showroom of all Indian brands and Indian products in the center of Manhattan. And this is now starting. A lot of luxury homes are buying from them. So, like you said, it's not fair to say it's a success or a failure. We're good at some things; those things are going abroad. There are certain things that we're not the best at, or we choose to market it here in India. Rugs are going abroad, lights are going abroad, sculptures and art pieces are going abroad. There are so many of those. So I think it can't be a binary question, and like the answer can't be binary that we're failing at certain things. We're good at cricket, we're not good at football. That we're going to improve on. But there are, and there are, hopefully, but the whole point being it's not binary. And if Jaipur Rugs has a store in Milan, right? They're doing more revenue in the US than Milan and India put together. A lot of these things we don't know until we actually have a dialogue with them or they tell us about certain things. So I think it's unfair to say we're failing at a global scale. I think we're a work in progress and we'll get there.
There are also two things here. One is that we are failing ourselves, not as a design community, but as a whole industry. Because if as an architect you show an Indian brand to a client, which is let's say an X amount for a chair, if it's slightly more expensive, they will say, I can get an Italian design out of it. So first we are failing ourselves here. And the second is, still a lot of West is predominantly looking at India for cheap things. Not all of them, but yes, they are still looking at India for cheap thing, and we are no more cheap because we are also starting to look at a certain level of quality, a certain level of design. We are starting to pay for design. So that shift is still happening very, very slowly. So it will take time, but I think these are also two very, very important factors why we are still not as successful abroad as we think we should be.
Okay, you've said this and it's made me think that it is also that, like how you've mentioned all of these examples, it's also the way the economy works and how the dollar to Indian conversion is. I've known Jwalant and Kanika take their pieces abroad for exhibitions. But where most of us can't is because of the logistics. It is so damn exhausting. When we have to bring an Italian brand or any other brand to this country, हम खोल के खड़ा जाते हैं कि आइए, ठीक है, पर हमें कौन लेके जा रहा है? So this is also there. It's brilliant that thing has opened in Manhattan, which will give, but most of the beautiful designers and brands need that something, some sort of a funding or some sort of a hand holding to be able to be presented at least on a global scale first, for them to then scale up and people to appreciate and accept and receive us. So there is that gap which we ourselves are not doing for our own kind.
Yeah. And there are no angel investors for designers, right?
Yeah.
So do you guys think there is an ongoing conflict between the design world and the mass production world? And there is an inbuilt rejection of each other in India. Whereas, for example, Scandinavia and Milan don't separate the two. So a Milan designer doesn't feel ashamed of mass producing, whereas an Indian designer will say, we don't do this. So do you think that inbuilt mentality is what's making us fail in respect to the question of this?
Okay, I have a quick thing to add to that. Sometimes mass production may mean a lack of fair pay. And a lot of the times when designers decide to do this, they want to make sure that the craftspeople who are involved are paid fairly.
I think mass production is more an act of being very organized, which we are not.
100% I agree.
I think that's where I want to bring the attention to why you're failing. When you actually zoom out from within yourself and within your practices, when you really zoom out and look at things, why are we not capable of doing a design piece like an IKEA and still mass producing?
That's a brilliant question.
Good question. I think it's a brilliant question, and that makes me think one reason, if I put myself in that shoes, is that worry, that fear that it will be copied. Because the ethics sometimes over here are very weak. So when we were in Milan last time with our furniture, the first question they asked was, who is producing that for you? Because they look at you as designers. So over there, the designers don't necessarily produce. The companies bring designers, or the designers go to company and the company produces it. And then there is a fair share of, everything which is sold and the royalties which are paid. Over here, we are a very gray kind of a market. So the first thing, like I was recently asked by a Chinese company that can we produce your furniture, and I said outright no, because I'm scared. I'm fearful that they will take the technique from me, and we are very slow. So by the time I give them 10 designs, they will make 20 other designs of their own and then spread it around the world, and it's just gone. Maybe it never happens, but that fear, because we are in this environment, and I've seen design other friends and colleagues who have used a particular carpenter to make, let's say, a jula, without his knowledge that carpenter is making that jula and then selling it because a client said, okay, 4 lakh ka jula is too expensive, I'll give you 2 lakhs. Can you make this? Show a photograph to the same carpenter and they will build it. Yeah. So that fear over here of being able to just sell our ethics is prevalent, and I think that fear doesn't allow us to give away something which we hold very dear to ourselves, and I think that is
fear of what? What is the fear?
That
a Chinese company would copy your designs and sell more around the world. But isn't that your implanting design implanting? So your name is spreading more, and your
no, I think they will sell it without our knowledge and will not get the royalties.
So people who buy IKEA will never be able to afford your products, and people who buy your products will never buy IKEA. So I think the markets are very different. So how would it make a difference if you give a capsule collection for IKEA?
IKEA is different, because IKEA is, but someone you just met, because this guy whom I met is only producing, the first copies or the second copies or whatever you call them, right? Now, he was making a showroom, almost a 3 lakh square feet showroom, and I had gone with a friend who is helping him design that showroom. So his brief was that I want a large entrance area like a reception where I will buy the originals of all the ones I'm selling duplicate. So you already see the mindset. You already see the mindset that there is a clarity in their head that they are not doing anything wrong. So, and over here also it's predominant. We have seen our photographs put on other people's Instagram page and saying that we are building it in the same industrial area we built in. So it's the the entire thing is very, very murky, and you cannot really trust anyone, and that's the reason we are not able to scale.
But it's also fair to
Paperwork, regulation, yeah. I will just give
Nothing works. Mahindra Thar is a rip-off of Jeep Wrangler. Did anything happen anywhere? So what are you talking about? Me trying to really make meat stand?
That's such an interesting question. We have seen it in garment factories. We've seen it in silks. We've seen it in other industries where we have been able to organize, create factories, and you have the pigeons of the world. I know this because my father was into garment manufacturing, and we know that India supplies a lot of garments. So does China, so does Mexico, Vietnam, Bangladesh, but India also has been a very, very big hub for garments for even the bigger brands. You look at Tamil Nadu, we are able to organize. What we're not able to put together is the people of it. There are times in factories where one person holds a job and one day some other member of their family comes to do the same job when they're ill or other things. There are different problems to figure out. IKEA had other challenges when they came to India. IKEA started in the US where people are able to go to the hardware shop, bring their tools and put IKEA furniture together. IKEA started giving small tools. In India, when IKEA first started, they miserably failed because a person says, I'll buy it, now I have to put this chair together myself. until urban company or their neighborhood carpenter, or they were able to open the book and put it together, and then still something is flailing and dropping. IKEA also had their own thing. Now IKEA is manufacturing their mattresses here with Kurlon and Duroflex and other things. Some industries were able to figure it out, some were not able to figure it out. It may be a function of people and how we lead our human resource and other things. It's something we have to figure out in most of them. In some places we're able to figure out, and in some places it's...
No,
IKEA as a company does great with objects, decor, but in terms of furniture, let's say they're not doing much. I mean, if I'm being very honest, I've actually done furniture for IKEA's India public relation head. So they don't trust their furniture. So, I mean, what are we talking about there?
There is a little bit of gatekeeping that happens out of this fear, like Jwalan said. So I think that's where it is coming from, you know.
So, I mean, as designers, like you guys are all into design, there's a lot of soul and heart that you guys put into making something, right? That there's time, there's a lot of value that you add to the design, right, Priyanka? So how do you translate that into a globally marketable product?
So when you're talking about installations, or when you're talking about art, there is a lot of passion and heart and soul and narrative and all of that goes into it. But when you're talking about a product, there is function to it, there is saleability to it, there is logistics to it. I think the key would be to not dilute the art down, if I'm articulating this right, to not dilute the art down, to keep the essence and yet give them something that is, functional and scalable and is more massy, I feel. So you're not supposed to dilute or dim the idea down, but you're still supposed to somehow keep the essence and then translate that into something that still appeals to a mass and not just a niche. Like, I don't do art which is for the gallery, because it is for, I still do stuff which is eventually in homes and stuff, but I still feel that the art is for the elite, like the way it's done. I would rather do a more public engaging work because it is for the mass. So if you blur that boundary between art and product and still not dilute the idea or intent down.
You want to add something, Jay?
I think whenever one is designing, let's say here in this case a product or a furniture, I don't think anybody thinks about how to market it in the first way. First, I think the first engagement in design for a piece is purely either your expression or, in his case, looking at a market and seeing what is missing. So there is one or two areas which you're focusing on. Once that product is with you, either you think how to market it, you sell the story in a certain way, or there are marketing agencies who will help you sell that story. So a person very rarely, I would say, would think everything in one go, where what we are designing, how to manufacture it, how to market it, how to make it possible, how to make it available for the global, or how to really excite everyone around to buy it. I think one doesn't think all of them together. It is always the first aim could be the love for that material, the need for that product, or whatever that is. Then it goes into a series of stages where someone takes it, markets it, you yourself market it, and how you kind of make it viral in today's world for everyone to,
Jwalant, I would like to slightly contradict that, because what you are talking about is the kind of people you are flocking with, which are ethical practitioners. Again, so the kind of dialogues you have, the kind of exposure you have, the kind of intellect you have has attracted that kind of designers for you to be able to only see it like this. But what generally happens is, why do you think there are trends and why do you think there are Pantone colors? The bloody cloud or whatever that shit is now going to make us see more of that nonsensical thing in the industry in another month. So the industry also works on that, where people dilute their designs or start on the paper thinking कि ये बिकेगा इसीलिए मैं बना रहा हूँ, मेरे को बेचना है at the end of the day. They don't care about, all they care about is बरकत. and the next foreign trip, and not whether they're creating from that kind of passion or not. It is a very hard fact that we flock with us, so we don't know, but there are more. लक्षण रहेगा बाहर भी लोग हैं.
So pure his statement was, you turned it into an item number.
There's also a question of, is it a push model or a pull model? If the idea is to make something and then push it out into the market, that's when trends, Pantone colors, all of these kind of come into play. But, when we started, out of pure fear whether our products would be accepted, we adopted the pull model, where we'd wait for somebody to come and commission, just like art. We'd wait for someone to come and commission custom pieces. So what we do is, for anybody who doesn't know, we make custom furniture for homes, and it comes out of a place where while I was only practicing architecture, we'd sit and detail out even a hinge, and then finally when it comes to bringing furniture into the house, suddenly we are looking at random catalogs, buying and putting whatever fits in, and probably a week before housewarming. And more often than not, everything looks so mishmashed, and we're doing a disservice to the architecture itself. So that's where we started doing this, and we wanted to be a little more intentional about what we're doing. But the problem with that is it's not highly scalable. Like a pull model is not a scalable model, but it is a model where you're not creating waste. So it's a choice. Like if you want to push out, you may have to look at forecast trends, but if it is more about attending to a specific clientele, then you have a little bit more grace that you can hold on to.
I think one variable I want to add to it is, in the world of today, there's so many companies, so many brands, so many products that, to your question, how do you bring it out to the market, is brand persona, right? You create a brand persona, you hero one product at a time, so that you're not bringing an entire buffet to the market. How does somebody know your persona or know when to call upon to you? Is to just sort of hero one product at a time and make your brand persona very niche, and something that a person will only remember you when that particular product or solution is something that they're thinking about or talking about. And so in order to market it, whether locally, domestically, country-wise.
Locally, yes, but in the digital world now, right? So what do you think the role of e-commerce should be to enhance what we do? What could we do better for e-commerce? I've been given a script, guys.
We don't really do e-commerce, so.
I think e-commerce is one of the ways you can sell things, and rather than looking at just e-commerce or this, it's one of the platforms. Like for smaller design studios, it could be multiple exhibitions a year. It could be you're putting your stuff as store in store or in multiple stores across the country, world, and e-commerce is another platform. So we have to look at multiple platforms to sell our stuff, because finally the moment you become seller from designer, and nobody wants to be called seller, but we are seller. So the moment you become an entrepreneur from a designer, you have to find avenues, and whichever avenue works for you. Yeah. If you have smaller products, online platforms become a lot bigger market for you, because people are ready to swipe cards with 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 25,000. Once the products are bigger, couple of lakhs, few lakhs, then the e-commerce become a slightly smaller market for you, and the stores become a bigger market, or the exhibitions a bigger market. So I think we have a lot of avenues to sell our stuff. We have to be everywhere, depending on the product, depending on how you position your brand. You might be at different places, and it might help you differently.
It's a convenience. It's just a convenience. Whether you want to use it to educate the customer, that's where it is. I know there are brands that have their more inexpensive products just as a way to penetrate the market, where they're like, okay, I know this company now because they have a 5,000 rupee light that I bought of their website. By the way, they have these showrooms where they have 50,000, 1.5 lakhs, so on and so forth. So if they're able to just acquire their customer through e-commerce, we don't do penetrating pricing. We do have an e-commerce avenue just as a convenience. So for us, it's more of a convenience, and we've got showrooms. But I know brands who use it to either educate, where they acquire the customer online, convert offline, or they use it as a penetrating pricing strategy to sell something small to them online, where they can then come to their showroom and then do the bigger chunk of their transaction offline. With other brands with fast consumer goods, then their entire business is e-commerce. For us, the major craft, like you said, is offline. So for us, it's only an avenue of either educating or a small way of acquiring the customer.
Yeah, because post-COVID, the spending capacity of Indians on homes has become such. Also, if I'm spending that exorbitant amount of money, I want to touch feel it. Yeah. And if I myself cannot, before spending that kind of money, I'm just going to send my stylist, because now that's also a thing. Yeah. But people want to experience it, the narrative, the person behind it, yada, 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 and then spend that kind of money. I think e-commerce also works in just them making sure that, okay, I like it enough, but I do want to see that product in a physical space, meet the person, have that kind of investment with that product in terms of emotions, and then bring the finances in. So e-commerce for us is not as a model.
So it's a good entryway, but then there's a validation that will be required eventually.
The tangible space needs to exist for this kind of market.
So I guess we're running on the clock now. So there's a last segment that we have, which is called the rapid fire. So I think that's another 2 minutes that we'll wind this up.
Didn't we have till 5:30? कहाँ जाना है तुझे? Where do you want to go?
Tarun, do you want to
हम निकल रहे हैं, आप प्रियंका के साथ हो रहे हैं, एक्स्ट्रा आधा घंटा बैठ लेना.
So we'll start with Jayant. Jwalant, sorry. Jwalant, what do you trust more, proportion or intuition? It's a rapid fire.
Both.
Is both allowed? Is parametric design in education an aesthetic choice or a pedagogical statement?
It's pedagogical.
Okay. So is product design in India over-engineered or under-imagined?
It's perfectly fine.
If form follows performance, does aesthetic lose authorship or gain honesty? I'll repeat again.
Yeah. More gain honesty.
So next to Gayatri. Gayatri, does your design begin with client habits or design themes?
Client habits.
Is reuse a sustainability choice or a design ideology?
It's a sustainability choice.
Can imperfection be a form of luxury? Yes or no?
Sometimes.
None of the above. Is minimalism about absence or precision?
It's about intention.
Priyanka, that's you. So scale excites you or intimidates you?
Intimidates. Have you met me? Like
I
neither.
don't think you're intimidated.
Which is why I said that you can't have that question as invalid.
Yes.
Invalid question.
So commercial success or artistic freedom?
Commercial success is just artistic freedom with better shoes. So, yeah.
That's on clouds. The first thing you notice when you enter a space?
Whether it's just fancy furniture put together or whether the space has soul.
And can imperfection become a selling point? Yes or no?
100%.
So, lastly, Tarun, this is the final finale. Is customization the new form of craftsmanship? Yes or no?
My customization is somebody else's craftsmanship. Somebody else's craftsmanship is my customization.
Wow. Wow. Manhattan as well, eh? No, he's prepped it, he was reading the documents before. When the ceiling becomes a public canvas, should design prioritize performance or identity?
Both. It's a graph. Some people prefer what, some people prefer. If it's a home or a hotel.
Right. So global templates, adapt or resist?
Integrate where it adds value, ignore where it doesn't.
One word you have when you work with architects?
tremendous respect.
Sure.
How would you answer that?
I come from a single product line. You guys have to figure out all this stuff together and put it together
No,
and
massive-
handle the
massive
client at the
respect for
same time.
designers and architects.
So yeah. Huh? I'm only in a room with architects.
We also have few questions for Prerag. Rapid fire questions. Are raw materials risk or freedom?
Freedom.
One Indian design practice that inspired you most in 2026.
Maximalism.
If your next product had to challenge one norm, which one?
I would definitely go against Wabi Sabi and Japandi concepts, to be honest.
One word on work. Again, one word on working with the architects.
Massive respect.
I know this was more of an interactive segment, but still the stage is open to questions from the audience if you have any.
We're all looking to you, you know.
So this was a very impactful segment.